Hello and welcome to Northern Souls podcast. I'm your host Zeke, and I am joined today by the lovely Fiona Edgar. On this podcast, we talk about all things spirituality, religion, and psycho spirituality without touching into the New Age. Really excited for this conversation, as you were the one who taught me astrology and so much more. So, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I am Fiona Aedgar. I'm originally from Northern Ireland. I live in Denmark now. I'm an astrologer, an occultist, a heathen, and yeah, I like cats. I
You're the
like
crazy cat
cats,
lady.
coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and dive in with my first question because what's interested me is like I've heard a lot about your own spiritual journey and it's a pretty interesting one. So can you just go ahead and talk about that and like how you got to where
hmm
you are today? Because you come from Ireland, which is one of the few countries in Europe that's like very Christian.
hmm
So it's always interesting to find someone who's Irish yet, isn't a part of that religion.
Yeah, I was born immune to Christianity.
Hmm.
My parents did their best. We had to go to church, we had to go to Sunday school, and I remember sitting there like 5 years old, simmering with rage because we had to sing this Jesus song. Yes, Jesus loves me so.
Yeah.
And it's they are weak, but he is strong. And in my head, I was singing, "He is weak, and they are strong." Like I had just
Okay.
had this ancestral thing about against Christianity.
Yeah.
So I never believed in that, despite being a child who was interested in fairies, ghosts, loved folklore,
Hmm.
had a few paranormal experiences as a child.
Hmm.
So I had two older sisters, and the eldest one, she taught me a lot of stuff. She got me introduced to astrology. She was interested in spiritualism and all of that. My great grandparents were spiritualists, which was pretty unusual at the time.
Hmm.
Uh, did a lot of stuff, was always interested in things like tarot. Um, and then eventually, I guess I did a bunch of New Age stuff because really there was nothing else at that time.
Right.
In Ireland, it was either like Christianity or the New Age. Didn't really get introduced to paganism until a bit later.
Hmm.
Now, I will say that I never actually was really New Age. I used to go to these like spiritualist workshops where you would learn to do mediumship,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And it actually did teach me how to really tune in to different spirits and things. I wouldn't recommend it as a path because, well, the dead are supposed to be dead. They're not supposed to be in our realm. I think that you can communicate with them sometimes. But calling them up, like, I'm just gonna call this, great granny up and have a chat with her. I really don't think that's true. I think a lot of different entities and jinn and things can pretend to be the dead or something else. So you have to use your discernment. However, it was quite fun.
Hmm.
Um, did that, then stumbled onto shamanism. It was actually a girl in the kind of spiritualist workshop who approached me and she said, "Oh, I do these shamanic classes. Do you want to go?" And I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, shamanism." I thought that was like something that only South Americans did. And, you know, went along and actually it opened up for me very quickly. I learned how to connect with like spirit animals, how to go into the lower worlds, the upper worlds. It is a valid path. Then later on, I ended up getting like a real teacher, and he was a real asshole. You know,
Yeah.
Spiritual teachers should be assholes. Like they should expose your weaknesses. They shouldn't blow smoke up your ass and tell you you're the best thing since sliced bread. Um, I was very angry with him at the time. However, now looking back, I realize that he was right. And he
Okay.
taught us a kind of a shamanism with a Nordic flavor.
Okay.
So he introduced us to Odin,
Mm.
and the other gods. So in that sense, it was a more authentic path.
Okay.
However, we really don't have that much information as to what they actually did. But if you look at the Eddas, there some bits and pieces they're clearly talking about shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
as Europeans, our true paths, well, they tried to eradicate it from the earth,
Mm-hmm.
extinguish it. So I did that, still do a bit of that, now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also kind of went into other different forms of paganism, tried on Greek, tried on Roman, tried on Celtic, didn't really vibe with it,
Okay.
but the Nordic gods, I'm from Northern Ireland, but a lot of my DNA is Anglo-Saxon,
Mm-hmm.
Danish and German.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that portion of my DNA ha has always spoken the loudest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now that's all I do really is I'm a Nordic pagan, and I will
Mm-hmm.
be until I die.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like that is pretty interesting how you kind of went around. Sorry, I have my cat in my lap. So
Oh, that's fine.
yeah, I
Hello,
didn't realize she
kitty.
was in the room. So
Yeah,
if you see me moving around funny, that's why.
that's
Um,
okay.
uh, yeah, it's a pretty interesting journey. Like when you tried out Roman and Greek, is that mostly just because we have more information about them and it's just easier to get some? Okay.
Well,
Um,
it's just when it came to paganism, it was really only from the internet back in
right,
those
yeah,
days. We're
yeah,
talking about like 2004 here or
yeah, yeah.
before. And I didn't know any pagans in Belfast. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah,
So it was mostly the Greek and the Roman. Of course, people are more familiar with those myths, so at least they were then.
right, right.
So I tried it on. Yes, you do get contact with the gods, but it's like trying to speak to them through a glass wall, I would
Yeah.
say.
Okay, yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. Um, so I have another question, mostly about your teacher, how you're kind of telling like he was an asshole.
Yeah.
My question for you is like, where's the line of okay, this is okay to okay, no, this is like just an abusive jerk that isn't useful. Like, where's that line, you know? Because that's one that'd be hard for me, given my own
Mm.
personal experiences. Like, if someone's a jerk to me, like I'm gonna go fuck themselves. Uh,
Yeah.
but I totally understand where you're coming from. So, what's the where's the line, you know?
Well, when I say asshole, I mean it in a kind of affectionate way.
Okay.
Um, he he taught me to be more independent and
Mm.
strong. Uh, there was no hand holding. There was no
Okay.
there, handing you the Kleenex. It was like the shamanic path is not for the weak. It's
Right.
only for strong people, and you have to have your house in order before you go anywhere near this. The reason is because it's a powerful path, you will get attacked.
Right.
And attacks are like water, they will go through the path of least resistance.
Mm.
Normally, that's got to do with your own weaknesses, your own mind. Um, so part of that path is I hate using shadow side. Everyone talks about the shadow side, but we all have, stupid shit about ourselves that we should really try to fix.
Right.
And usually it's not that visible to us.
Hmm.
So he gently kind of held a mirror up to all of us, and taught us how to be strong. And in a way, the spirits will also do that.
Okay.
Because if you spiritual attacks, they always go for your weak spots.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and the shaman is not just someone that, you know, sits there and in the lotus pose, they're doing like hard, dangerous work.
Hmm.
And to be able to do that, you have to be a strong person.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, when you put it that way, that makes a lot more sense. Because at first I thought he was just being a jerk and stuff. So, but
No,
that makes
I
more
thought he
sense.
was.
Yeah. It just feels a lot more Odinic in that it's just really blunt and just telling you like it is. And because it's true, it's like you can't deny it, but at the same time you're like, dang, dude, like was there a nicer way to put that maybe?
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, that's a lot better than paying someone like $500 to go on a shamanic weekend and you get a certificate and
Yeah.
you're not taught anything about defense.
Hmm.
I mean that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like there is no certificate for shamanism. How could there possibly be?
Right.
And in the old days, the mothers would try and hide their children when the shaman went to look for an apprentice
Hmm.
because they knew it was brutal. Like it potentially can kill you.
Hmm.
There's this thing called shamanic sickness, and it can make you extremely ill.
Hmm.
But nowadays we live in this Neptunian society where everyone thinks that they can be anything.
Right. Right. Yeah, like if you believe it hard enough, you can accomplish whatever and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this might tie into next. So we already kind of touched on shamanism, but like, how, you know a lot about folk magic. Where exactly did you learn? And when it comes to teachers, what's a good way to figure out whether or not someone's legitimate? Because that's something I've struggled with. That's why I don't look into it at all because I'm like, well, how do I know you're full of it or not? And I don't want to spend money learning something
Hmm.
if it just turns out to be BS because like I hate being wrong. And when I say hate being wrong, like I mean hate. So it's kind of paralyzing for me in a lot of ways. So yeah, where did you learn and like how do you figure out if someone's legitimate or not?
I never had a teacher. I just learned through my own research.
Okay.
Like plant magic, that's available kind of in a lot of different places.
Hmm.
Old folk magic, that's all like we know a lot of stuff from online now and old books. I never
Hmm.
had a teacher.
Okay.
So you can teach yourself, especially as you're a Gemini.
Uh-huh.
Folk magic is intuitive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Which I'm pretty intuitive. So, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did look into, the hoodoo tradition in America.
Yep. I
So
mean, I'm aware of
that,
it anyways.
yeah, that's a mixture of like voodoo,
Hmm.
but also old European folk magic.
Hmm.
There's a bit of Christianity in there. They use some Bible verses and things. But
Hmm.
if you take those away, you're left with a really good system of folk magic.
Okay.
Like using, for example, like graveyard dirt,
Hmm.
using this specific oil or chili peppers or a doll, all of that kind of stuff, which really is like folk magic.
Yeah.
I researched that for a long time and really used that for a long time. It's very effective.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So, um, yeah. So, since you're probably most well known as an astrologer, what got you into it? And did you teach yourself just like you did with like folk magic and stuff?
I did teach myself largely, apart from a few courses with Bernadette Brady.
Hmm.
I first got into it 20 something years ago now.
Hmm.
Again, my oldest sister, she was always into astrology and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
She bought a book on rising signs, and I learned, oh, I'm a Gemini rising, oh, I'm Scorpio moon. From that point, I was obsessed.
Hmm.
If you only go by your sun sign, it's so general and vague. It can apply to so many different people. But once
Right.
you start to research like the whole chart, then you're hooked.
Hmm.
And so from then on, I studied a lot. Now, back then, in those days, it was really only a kind of new agey stuff that was available.
Hmm.
Uh, we had no teachers that I was aware of in Northern Ireland. We had a bunch of books, but they were mostly written by sort of American New Age astrologers.
Right.
A lot of the Greek texts had not been translated.
Hmm.
So, I started off kind of with the New Age stuff, then kind of looked into Hellenistic astrology, some Vedic astrology as well, medieval astrology, and that's where you get the real stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, Even when I'm not doing readings or teaching students, I'm looking at horary charts, reading books. Uh, I'm obsessed with astrology. It's my number one obsession, and it will be until I die because
Hmm.
there is just it can do everything, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, like it was the same for me when I had my reading with you, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta figure this out. And then, I found out my birth chart, and yeah, once I found out, yeah, you're a Gemini sun, but you're also a Taurus rising, I was like, okay, that explains a lot more why I still have Gemini traits. But whenever I would just read about my sun sign, I'd be like, there's so much about this that just doesn't really feel right. And I was like, that's
Hmm.
why. Okay, cool. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe people watching this that aren't really familiar with astrology, let us clarify a few things. You're not going to have the same chart as anyone unless they were born at exactly the same day, time, and location as you.
Hmm. Yep.
Exactly the same time.
Hmm.
Because even 15 minutes can make a huge difference in astrology. The stars from your ascendant will change. So let's throw out this crap about, oh, there's only 12 different personality types. Well, astrology does not say that for starters.
Hmm.
It's complex. It covers everything in your life from the amount of children you could have, your fertility, to your ancestral problems, your career, your ability to earn money, relationships, friends, your health, disease, even your death is in there.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So like the application, it's like I don't know if it's endless, but it's like pretty close. It's pretty close. So yeah. Well, and then I mentioned this in a different podcast that it was in. It's like you can even come up with birth charts for countries and stuff, which is where mundane astrology comes in and how you're able to make predictions for like elections or hey, is this politician going to get assassinated or whatever. Like, yeah, and it's spooky. It is
Hmm.
spooky how accurate it is once you, as long as you're dealing with authentic astrology. So yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, astrologers were banned from making death predictions over like politicians, royalty, and the clergy
Hmm.
because William Lilly, an astrologer, used to predict their deaths. And he was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, you don't want to vote that person in because they're going to die in like 6 months." And he was right all the time.
Hmm.
So they banned that.
Hmm.
And now people are not familiar with authentic astrology anymore. All of they see is this new age garbage like Lion's Gate and friggin' Pleiadians and UFOs, and that's not astrology. That's bollocks.
Yeah.
So I can understand why a lot of people scoff at astrology because they have not looked into the real stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a real shame because yeah, the applications are just it's such a useful tool that it's really too bad that it's not treated in the way that it should be.
Yeah, it's not treated with respect.
Hmm. Um, well, you kind of touched on the new age, so that kind of leads me to my next question is what's first, what's your experience with the new age? And can you tell us what's the difference between new age and paganism? Because as the years go on, it seems harder and harder to really differentiate new age from paganism because it kind of feels like new age is kind of really trying to infiltrate paganism. So Can you
Hmm.
tell us what the difference is?
Well, first of all, the difference is that paganism venerates a pantheon of gods,
Hmm.
and to be done in an ancestrally appropriate way, you should only venerate the gods that are part of your ancestry. And I want to
Hmm.
be very clear about that because they say, "Oh, you're a Nazi." Well, okay, all of my ancestors were Nazis then, same as yours. But if you try and go and venerate a bunch of African gods as a white person, you won't get anything out of it.
Hmm.
Nothing. And they probably won't like you anyway. So just stick to your ancestral gods. Europeans are usually a kind of mix of European.
Hmm.
Uh, the New Age is just really Christianity with wearing tie-dye.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good way of putting it. Well, because like if you look at their ideology from a genealogical point of view, it's kind of just like the next iteration of Christianity, really. It's just rebranded, so to speak. They just use different kind of words, but it's effectively the same thing, you know?
Yeah, except it's aliens coming now and not Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, they actually think that they're communicating with aliens
Hmm.
or Pleiadians or whatever the hell they call them, who have been telling them now for 30 fucking years that they're going to come to Earth, right? I
Yeah.
remember in the early MySpace days, these things going around MySpace. Oh, it's the Pleiadians. Do you wish that we show up, dear ones? Yes. Well, where are they? And
Hmm.
they want these aliens to come and save us all on Earth and usher in an age of enlightenment and all of this stuff. So they're basically, it's just another form of, they want a savior.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
And giving away their own agency to something else instead of doing whatever they can to make their lives better, you know? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really jinn that they're talking to.
Hmm.
It's a bunch of jinn
Hmm.
that are pretending to be space aliens.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is because I've helped so many people who got into this new age UFO madness. Then they
Hmm.
have demonic activity in their home. They've got intrusive thoughts, bad feelings. They have a string of negativity around them, like they lose their job, their relationship breaks up. That's all like classic jinn or demon activity.
Hmm.
That's what happens when you invite a jinn into your life, is they cause chaos.
Yeah.
They drive everyone away from you. They
Hmm.
isolate you and they feed on you.
Hmm.
And that's typically what happens when people start this new age garbage,
Hmm.
is they have
Yeah.
that happen.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
yeah, because
never
like,
really went in for that, the UFO stuff, I didn't, but right now it's very popular.
yeah, well, and, like I've seen a few documentaries with different like new age stuff, and yeah, it almost always seems to end in the same way where the people just end off worse and worse off. And you just physically look at them, even their body, you can see them deteriorating before your own eyes. Yet they still keep on clinging uh, to the stuff, and it's just like it's heartbreaking to watch, because it's like if you could just see what I could see, like you would know something ain't right, but it's you're
Yeah,
bewitched,
they're
you know.
bewitched. And like all demons will use flattery.
Yep. Yeah.
And the people, they do gain some kind of I guess they do open up like their clairvoyance a bit,
Hmm.
because in the new age they like to meditate and do all these things. Like that will open you up, but you're opening yourself up with no protection.
Hmm.
And then they start to get communications from these things,
Hmm.
and then they start to flatter.
Yep.
So through flattery, they gain trust, and then that person's life is ripped apart.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can confirm from personal experiences that that is a trajectory you can go on should you open yourself up to that. So, I mean, Yeah. Anyways, it's not really helpful to dwell on it because then you probably just start hating on
No.
yourself. So
Well, no, don't do that. We've all been there. I've done a bunch of stupid stuff as well, before I came onto this path.
yeah.
Uh, but then once you do find your authentic path, your ancestral path, you get so much protection out of it.
Hmm.
I never
Hmm.
have any problems with entities anymore.
Hmm.
If I just think of Thor, if I think something fishy is going on and the entity leaves,
Yeah.
they're not going to deal with Thor.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, is just like how effective that is, and it's so simple, yet so effective, and it's really underutilized, you know, and it really doesn't take that much effort on your part, which is, I mean, it speaks volumes to how following your own ancestral path is really helpful with just something like that really doesn't take much out of your day to protect yourself from entities. So,
Yeah. I give the gods offerings usually every night.
mhm.
Now it's not an big elaborate thing nightly. I just offer some incense and say a few words to them.
Yeah.
And then a couple of nights a month I will do a more elaborate ritual.
Mhm.
But with that, yeah, I venerate the gods. I love the gods. They've given me so much and
Mhm.
I adore them.
Mhm.
And in return, they have given me protection.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like that's what I've noticed too, because I do something similar, like with daily rituals, except for me, like I do it in the morning, and just give incense, and I basically have a specific mantra that I say every morning, but it's also about kind of setting me up for the day. And it's a nice way to include my kids, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but because that's also something that's kind of lost on like a lot of pagans, especially new ones, is perhaps because they have a lot of Abrahamic baggage and they feel like it's praying in a
Mm,
more Christian sense where you're begging. But even if you're just giving even just a tiny small gift, like that still counts for something, and that's still an energetic exchange, you know?
hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's following natural law is to give and receive.
yeah.
In animistic times, they gave offerings to rivers, trees,
Hmm.
uh, deer,
Hmm.
anything, any interaction. And it's still a good idea to do that, leave offerings in nature.
Hmm.
But of course, you should give offerings to the gods.
Right.
Um, it's just a polite thing to do. It's only in Christianity where they grovel and beg and plead, and they never get anything. They don't get one thing, not even an augury from nature,
Hmm.
nothing.
Hmm.
Whereas you contact Odin, you give Odin some offerings and reach out to him, the person gets a sign almost immediately.
Yeah. Well, like speaking about Odin, like I one time I remember giving an offering, and the way I was giving it, I was outside and I was pouring wine out for him over a fire, but so I didn't put the fire out. I just did it around the periphery, so it's like, oh, it'll evaporate and it'll be fine. And as I was pouring the wine, like the fire leapt up and like touched my hand, like, and I almost looked back and like,
Whoa.
yeah, and like I even checked the alcohol percentage on the wine because I was like, physically, how was that possible? And yeah, it was pretty low percent, so I was like, that physically should not have happened. So
Hmm.
like that's an example, but yeah. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. The gods do hear us,
Hmm.
and oftentimes they will give us signs.
Hmm.
Uh, Especially when you're going through a horrible time in life.
Hmm.
Uh, they're extremely responsive if you reach out to them. At
Hmm.
least that's my experience with them.
I mean, that's been my experience because, like the example I just used, that was a very hard time for me. You know, there's been other things where it's not so much like you hear a voice from on high saying things to you, but it's just like certain feelings, or like all of a sudden you have like a certain burst of inspiration where it's like finally this question has been answered, and you're just like, whoa, okay.
Hmm.
It can be any number of things. So.
Yeah. especially when it comes to knowledge. You know, if I want to know something, I ask Odin.
Hmm.
Not stupid stuff, but I've asked him, please, can you tell me more about my ancestors? And I'll have dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please, can you teach me about more about astral travel?
Hmm.
A month of astral travel. So
Yeah.
if you want to expand your knowledge and your skills, these are Odinic things.
Hmm.
Uh, Oftentimes he will help
Hmm.
if he wants to, if he feels like it.
Well, because you've told me this and I've experienced it personally. Whenever you give offerings to Odin, you always got to be careful, because it's like he'll give it to you, but it- what I've found is the more attached to ignorance and illusion you are, the harder that experience is going to be. Because it's kind of like what
Yeah.
you were saying with your shamanic teacher is they put you in a situation where you have to face like the truth with a capital T,
Hmm.
and it's often in a not so fun way, but you'll be better off
Yeah.
for it. So,
Yeah. Odin he treats everyone differently as well.
mm,
There is a noticeable difference between his interactions with men and women. Like he tends to be more gentle with the women.
mm,
Um, I give him offerings, every night with the other gods. Occasionally I will request his help with something.
mm,
But yeah, you have to know yourself very well when you
mm,
ask those things, because he will expose the falsehoods in your life within
yeah,
yourself and your weaknesses,
mm,
and he can take you through the fire.
mm,
But he doesn't
mm,
want to go through that. I mean, why do you want to be comfortable all the time and, soft and like, everything's gentle? I don't want that. Like, I want
mm.
change and transformation and to be the best that I can.
Same. It makes life way more interesting, to be honest. So, yeah.
Exactly.
If nothing else, it gives you story for the grandkids. So,
Well, there you go.
no.
There you go. But what you're doing, I think, is just the best.
Hmm.
Like you're raising your kids as pagans
Hmm.
and you're
Yeah.
teaching them all of the stuff.
Hmm.
For me, that is the greatest thing ever. It's the greatest gift, the biggest offering.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm so pleased when I hear that.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's pretty fun too. And for any parents listening, like it's really not that hard. You don't have to force anything on them. Like I just perform rituals and stuff like I normally do. I just do it in front of them. And kids are naturally curious. They want to know what you're doing. They have questions, and you just say it like it is, and just be like, "Oh yeah, it's this, and that," or and it's actually a lot less complicated than people make it out to be, and you really don't have to force anything on them that they want to know, and they want to participate. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just teach them all the old stories.
Hmm. Yep. Well, and like just the other night, because I always wear my Thor's hammer, and my oldest was asking questions like, "How did Thor get his hammer?" And I was like, "Do I have a story for you?" So yeah, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because they're
So
naturally curious. Of course, they're going to ask questions.
well, and especially my oldest, she is in the phase where she has 50 million questions about literally everything,
Ah, yeah.
which
Why?
is a good
Why?
thing. But yeah, sometimes you're kind of like we're watching a movie and she asks a whole bunch of questions, and I'm like, if you just watch the movie, you'd find out. But anyways, I don't say that. I
Oh,
don't say that.
she's never going to stop that. That's a woman thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She'll do that
So
always.
yeah, it's fun though. I enjoy it. So um, so we've kind of talked about you should always follow your ancestral path. Um, why is it important to follow your ancestral path? Like, especially in America, it's a big debate. Or why can't you just pick something that's right? Why can I just do whatever? Why is it best for me to do an ancestral path? you know, because again, you already kind of said it, you get accusations of being a Nazi or a racist or a bigot.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so in your own words, like why should you be doing your ancestral path instead of something else?
Well, it's got the most power in
Hmm.
it because this is the thousands of years worth of your ancestors doing this same thing and
Hmm.
beyond. The gods do recognize us through our DNA. Now, don't ask me how I know that. I just do.
Okay,
But
because I was
the
going to ask you how
gods,
you know.
yeah, the gods will quite often, people have a dream about Odin, or that's a common thing, and they're introduced to the past by like a dream or an experience. Well, that is your DNA speaking to you, expressing itself. There's
Hmm.
so much protection in your ancestral path.
Hmm.
The deities know who you are. You're not trying to steal someone else's story.
Hmm.
Um, why not go with what feels right? Well, people do, and then they end up worshiping aliens, or
Yeah.
they end up drinking the Kool-Aid somewhere. And why not just
Hmm.
trust your ancestors that they knew what they were doing? And I
Hmm.
know someone's thinking, yeah, but what about Christianity? That's also ancestral. Well, no, it's not. Because my ancestors didn't do it willingly. They were done by the sword. And there
Yep.
were entire villages of people beheaded, like in Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thousands in one day. They were tortured with snakes and, all kinds of awful things.
Hmm.
I mean, they fought tooth and nail to stop it. So how is that natural?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is like they'll often try to make it about, oh, your more recent ancestors, but it's like that's because a lot of programming had already gone into it. I mean, we can just acknowledge that they were misled. They were misled, and it's just
Yeah,
as easy as that. Because
yeah.
had they known everything that I know, they, I could say right now for a fact, like my grandma, had she known what I know, would have dropped Christianity like a bad habit, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because intuitively there was just so many things about her that, to be blunt, did not jive with Christianity at all. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
yeah,
And I say the same thing to my dad as well. Like my dad's a boomer,
uh, yeah,
and he's part of the church, but he also sees spirits and things,
hmm,
and he's very psychic.
hmm,
Christianity is like everything that is not connected to God and Jesus is a demon.
right, yeah, yeah,
The land vader, the fairies, even their own ancestral spirits, they see them as something demonic.
yeah,
I mean, that's evil.
hmm,
That's sheer evil, cutting people off for themselves, as seeing their own pagan ancestors as, misguided, demonic.
hmm,
You're cutting someone off from their entire spiritual tree
yeah,
to worship a thing from the Middle East. He quite
hmm,
frankly is a demon. It's brought uh, destruction to the earth.
hmm,
You know, look back at pagan times, look at the beautiful cities, the civilizations, the arts. What have we got from Christianity? Ugliness,
hmm,
degeneracy, lies, families broken up, people putting themselves in OnlyFans, rejecting their kids because they want to go and put their genitals into someone else.
hmm,
We've lost honor.
yeah.
And that thing is from, I've never been there. Have you? I've never been to any of those places.
No. Well, like even when I was a Christian, I never had a drive to like go to the Holy Land. I always wanted to go to Europe as a kid. So that was something funny that I just thought about. So yeah, yeah. Well, I think that about covers that. There's really not much else to say. Well, because like even
Well,
for me, like the idea of trying to get into some other form of paganism, it feels weird. It's like, why would you? Because on the path that I follow, it's like I'm just being me. I'm just being
Mm-hmm.
completely and totally honest with me. What like why would I do anything else? Like it just doesn't make sense, you know. For
Yeah.
me, it would almost be like being a Christian again, where it's like I have to go out and get something and be
Yeah.
something else, you know. And it's like it's almost a non-question of like why would I do anything else, you know?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are confused about that. Like,
Yeah.
if you're broadly European,
Hmm.
you know, go go with whichever one you feel the strongest connection to.
Hmm.
Like I said, I was born in Ireland. I've got hardly any Irish DNA. Most of it is Scottish, English, Germanic.
Hmm.
Uh, but for me, it's the Germanic gods. If it's someone is struggling with Christianity and paganism, because a lot of people are in this kind of middle place for a while,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, go and give an offering to Odin,
Hmm.
or Mars, or Apollo, see what happens, explain yourself. This is how I feel. See how you feel afterwards.
Hmm.
And I guarantee that you will get the right answer and you'll get the right feelings. You don't need anyone to mediate. You don't need anyone to interfere. Do it yourself. Like there's no
Hmm.
priest.
Hmm.
You just go and be yourself and be polite and bring a gift
Hmm.
and speak from the heart
Hmm.
and just be totally natural and then see what happens.
Well, like that's the other thing too that I will add is gods always reciprocate gifts. That being said, they may not reciprocate with what you specifically ask for, but they will always reciprocate with what you need. So, you know,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
yeah. Um, okay, so I have another question that I really want to pick your brain about because I'm just so curious. But no, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of weird about these things. But I've heard you mention a couple of times on social media that where you die is based on what you believe. Um, can you elaborate on that and tell us how you know? Because like I've always been so curious about it because I'm just funny that way. But like, there's always a big debate about like how when you die, then we're all gonna find out which religion was true. But then when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then like, how does that tie into? It was. I'll just let you go before I start talking about all my ideas because I'm super curious. So
Yeah, well, it's just a theory.
okay.
Now, it's in the Rig Veda.
Hmm.
It says if you worship the gods, you go to the realm of the gods. If you worship the ancestors, you go to the realm of the ancestors, and so on. So what it's saying is that what you believe in, you will go to that place when you die.
Okay.
And that makes sense to me. And that's why people that have near-death experiences, some see Jesus, other ones see Odin, some see nothing. Other people see their, great grandfather or whatever. So it's just a theory. I don't know exactly what happens, but one
Uh-huh.
thing I have a huge beef with actually is the amount of people, including pagans, that all believe in this body hopping reincarnation. Yeah, it was in the Vedic text,
Okay.
and it mentions something about reincarnation.
Okay.
As in when you die, you go into another vessel.
Hmm.
Nobody else talked about that, at least as far as we know. The, the Julius Caesar did say that the Celts and the Druids believed something like that, but it was unclear exactly what they were talking about. It could have been the concept of Hamanya.
Right.
Like when you die, there's a part of your soul that a descendant will have, and it's passed on, and it's like a family thing.
Hmm.
Uh, where are the other bits of text about it, or pieces of knowledge? We have a few like second or third hand accounts. Where does it talk about that in the Eddas?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
why does
because
everyone believe in that?
I think off the top of my head, the in the Poetica, there's the story about Helgi Hundingsbany and his Valkyrie lover, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I think that's probably uh, one example. But like, I think
Hmm.
that's the only one that I've seen, you know. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true,
right.
but everyone just goes along without questioning that. Oh, you're going to
Yeah.
reincarnate? Well, who says so? Why are you so
Right.
sure about that? What about the other realms? What about Folkvang and
Hmm.
Valhalla and, so I personally believe that I'm not reincarnating. I'm going to Folkvang.
Hmm.
There is a bit in the Eddas about a woman talking about going there, so it wasn't just about people that died in battle.
Hmm.
Again, we have to be careful about this stuff because there's so much missing. The people that recorded it were largely Christians, so uh, but I have a problem with all of these people just automatically assuming that we're going to come into a different body as soon as you die. Like, that doesn't make sense to me
Hmm.
at all. And they believe it just because of this, verse or two in the Vedic texts.
Okay.
Um, if there was such a thing as a soul trap, and people, the truthers especially, love to talk about the Matrix. No, it's a soul trap, and the white light is a trap, and all of that. If it's true that our beliefs shape our afterlife, isn't it a huge trap that everyone thinks they're coming back here in another body?
Right. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and people will say, "Oh yeah, the children record, talking about past lives and coming up with these details." Well, yeah, maybe that is true that they have been reincarnated, but
Hmm.
is that because that they believed that they would? Has this concept of body hopping reincarnation been added to keep us trapped on Earth?
Yeah, it's
And
like
it's
kind of
like
like
a
the idea of
self-imposed.
samsara, to stay within
Yeah,
a Vedic path where it's, I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's a prison, but it's not somewhere where you're supposed to permanently be. So,
yeah,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because, like, I of course have heard the reincarnation thing and I find it interesting. But that's the other thing too, is a lot of people don't know they have an Abrahamic idea of the self being, mind, soul, body, and they don't have the entirety of the soul complex. Like you mentioned, Hamia. There's also Philia, but it also includes like your leak, your physical body. There's Hugh, like your thoughts and stuff, and it goes on and on and on. I don't remember all the words, but there's also the Ond and the Other, which is like the divine breath or the divine spark. That's really complicated, or at least complicated for modern minds. So yeah,
yeah. There's a lot to this. It's
yeah,
not just, oh, I'm dead, zip out of my body,
hmm,
go and find another body. This the ancestral component, like you said.
yeah, yeah,
But if they were referring to reincarnation, I think they were definitely saying that it's connected to your blood and your ancestry. If you're a white American,
hmm,
you're not going to be reborn as an African. There's a genetic, and that's what they literally believe. It's a subversive thing as well.
yeah,
It's to make people lose connection with their ancestors, their blood, their DNA. And they're like, "Oh, you're just a soul." That
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well, here's the other thing for me personally is paganism and science should always be in alignment because it's about talking about reality. The big difference with paganism is unlike Christianity, we don't have to come up with a bunch of stuff to justify ourselves. And like the idea of homia, especially ancestor homia, is actually supported by science through epigenetics. You know,
Yeah.
where it's like your genes are more or less like a series of on-off switches, and how your genes present themselves are somewhat influenced by your environment. And
Yeah.
frankly, that aligns pretty well with homia. So,
It
yeah.
does, yeah. And then you have the people like the Stoics, and they believe that you just live the same life over and over again. exactly the same life, same people, same conditions, and you had to do a hack to get out of it.
Interesting.
But
Okay. So it's like the
did,
movie Groundhog Day.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's wild. I didn't know that bit. Interesting.
yeah. S
Wow.
but now everyone believes the same thing about reincarnation. To be honest, it gets my goat
Hmm.
because they talk about people being brainwashed by religion and having no critical thinking skills, yet they all believe exactly the same thing and they don't question it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because like that's my thing. It's like obviously I have my beliefs, but like I always try to question them and just be like, yeah, but because even throughout my own lifetime, it's like there's been so many times where I've been wrong about things. It's like you always have to ask yourself, so are you wrong about this too? Not in a mean
Hmm.
way, but it's just gonna make sure that what you believe is consistent with the truth.
Yeah. I don't know what the truth is. Like, don't ask me. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
I mean, how do I know? I don't know anything.
Hmm.
I know what other people have said,
Hmm.
but you should question everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I know when a large amount of people believe something, it's usually wrong as well.
Yeah, yeah, so it actually kind of behooves you to go against the grain. Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, see, we don't have too much more time, but there is some stuff that I wanted to get in before I gotta let you go. I'll go ahead and put this in these two questions in one question. So we've kind of talked about spirits and the paranormal. Can you go into a little bit about what kind of experiences you've had, and maybe like talk about what are some good tips, like really good basic tips for people to protect themselves, especially if they're doing any form of mediumship or they feel like called to do that. What's a good way to protect yourself while doing that kind of stuff?
Um, I've had so many experiences. I don't know where to start. It's kind of a regular thing for me.
Uh-huh.
As I've got, been on my ancestral path for some time, what I have found and what other people find is that it opens up all of these abilities naturally,
Okay.
whereas stuff like Christianity seems to block them.
Hmm.
So I will see spirits. I've always been able to see them, but now it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had a bunch of experiences. We lived in a very old house,
Hmm.
and my dad was in the police.
Hmm.
We were under death threat, from the IRA
Yeah.
as well. My mother and my sister heard footsteps going up and down, the stairs outside my room, and I was
Hmm.
only a little tiny kid.
Hmm.
And they heard like marching, and my grandfather was a soldier in World War
Hmm.
II, and he'd passed away.
Hmm.
And they heard this, and my mom was so scared she blew a hole in the wall with the shotgun.
Yeah.
Uh, and my sister pissed her pants. I don't remember anything, but it was shortly after that we had to leave the house.
Yeah.
So we like to think that it was my soldier grandfather looking out for us.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, then we moved house to the country,
Hmm.
and it was a really old, like, little country house. We loved it, fields and stables and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And one night I'd been going up and down the stairs a lot, drinking water because I'm a lifelong type 1 diabetic.
Hmm.
And sometimes my blood sugar gets a little high, I'm thirsty.
Hmm.
So I'd, just finish getting a drink and I was at the top of the stairs and there was this really loud crash.
Yeah.
And my mother had had a bunch of antique plates, above a fireplace. Those plates somehow traveled from that room all the way into the bathroom. So you had to turn like two corners.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. And the
Huh.
dog used to bark at, the corner of the room and there was nothing there. And
Yeah, yeah. Mm. Yeah, like yeah, that reminds me of like the house my mom was born in because she was in a she was born at home. Yeah, she would always tell me stories of how like there would be cold spots, and whenever her or one of her siblings would go there, it would be like something would pinch them, you know. Uh,
oh,
yeah, and obviously they were Christians, so like my grandparents would try to pray over it and invoke Jesus Christ and stuff, but like it obviously never worked, so they had eventually had to move. But yeah, like oh my God. When I was living in Germany, like uh, I think it was haunted or it was just the house spirit. I don't know. Whatever it was, it hated my ass. It hated me.
oh,
Yeah, like I would always hear footsteps in the house. And it was especially creepy for me because I worked nights, so I had to be awake during the night. And of course, that's when most of the stuff is going on. But I remember
mm-hmm.
one of the weirdest stuff was in one of the bathrooms in the house that I literally never went into. And it's a tile, that's grouted onto the wall, just fell off for no reason, just
Ah,
weird, weird stuff like that would happen all the time in that house. So, yeah, like I didn't really believe in ghosts before joining the military, but once I did, and I was actually stationed in Europe, that's when stuff would happen. But like also when I was in England in my dorm room for like the first few months, I think there was like a spirit like attacking me and it would just like try to scare the crap out of me. Like I'd try to go to bed and then within 5 minutes of being in bed, I could hear someone walking around in my room. And of
oh
course, it'd be physically
no.
impossible for anybody to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And like they'd be like messing around with like shopping bags and stuff, that were like the crinkly
Ah,
plastic. Yeah. So I'd have to like get out of bed, turn on all the lights. And of course, nobody's there, so I'd like have to call on Thor to like help out because I was just like, oh my God, what the fuck? Yeah, so anyways, yeah, that's been mostly my experiences. But yeah, so as far as protection outside of, calling on Thor, like is there anything else you could recommend? Because
but
calling on Thor is mostly for like when bad stuff is already happening. So like how do you
yeah.
do it like before bad stuff happens?
Well, there's a lot of things that come into spiritual protection, and 90% of it is about you.
Yeah.
So if you're full of fear all the time and scuttling around your own home and, looking over your shoulder and, things like that, you have a lot of trauma from your childhood, the kind of the spirit world will kind of reflect that back. If you feel like prey, you will become prey.
Mhm.
And you have to strut around and, be brave and feel this confidence within yourself,
Yeah.
and you'll stop getting attacked, largely. So you have to do some healing on yourself. You also have to try and avoid stuff that makes you way more vulnerable to attacks, such as getting shit-faced drunk all the time, smoking weed, or, doing hard drugs, uh, porn addiction, eating shit food all the time. If you eat
Mhm.
junk food, you'll naturally weaken your defenses.
Mhm.
All of that comes into avoiding any new age garbage like channeling the alien stuff, even doing things like meditation with no protection. Like if I was going to meditate, I would simply visualize a hard dome over me or something that was you know hard to get through, just
Mhm.
setting the simple intention that only good things can happen in here.
Okay. Okay.
That's all, honestly, some of the most important things. No one mentions that. It's all like, oh yeah, you have to make a spiritual fortress and have algae hanging in every room. And no, you just have to really work on yourself as well.
Right. Well, I think that's what gets neglected all the time is so many people fail to see maybe certain things they're doing that is making them more vulnerable or, what have you. So, no, that's a really good starting point. So yeah, I do know you have to go. But this has been a fun conversation. Do you have any parting statements or anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, well, you can follow me on Substack, YouTube, Telegram. Feel free to check out my readings or my work.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's it, really. Thank you so much, Sig. It was really nice to chat with you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, that'll about do it for today. So, yeah, we'll see you all next time.